Hello my fellow weirdos, my name is Marie McWilliams and welcome back to my channel. Hiya, how are ya? For today's video I am going to be giving you my 2020 TBR, that is to be read to all you booktube newbies out there. Basically it's all the books that are being released in 2020 that I am most hotly anticipating, looking forward to, diving right into and getting scared by, because let's face it, we all know that my list is all horror. Yay! Okay, so first up we have Mallory by Josh Malerman, and that is out in May 2020. You will know him by now, guys. He is the author of Bird Box. It was a huge hit on Netflix, the adaptation with Sandra Bullock, and it was a huge best-selling novel and one of my favourite reads from this year. This book basically picks up where we left off, focusing mostly on Mallory and her facing the dangers of the world head on. I am very excited to see her next chapter. I loved the first book and I definitely want to find out what happened to her and her kids. Sequels can be a tricky area, but I have faith in him as a writer and I think it's gonna be a good one, so excited for that. Next up we have Home Before Dark by Riley, I want to say Sager, I don't know. July 2020, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce names. This is your classic haunted house situation. We've got a family that move into this big sprawling Victorian house in Vermont. It's haunted, lots of horrible things happen, and they're forced to flee in the middle of the night. The father of the family writes a best-selling novel based on their paranormal experiences. Go along decades later and we have the little girl of the family all grown up, too young to remember what actually happened and believing that her father's stories are a pile of tosh. She is now a historian and restorer of old properties and buildings, so she decides to go in, fix the place up, sell it on, and of course learns the hard way that her dad was telling the truth. I love me some gothic Victorian style horror, haunted house, ghosty type stories. It's right up my street, and this one sounds like it takes a particularly interesting twist when we've got an obvious skeptic going back into a house that she is determined is definitely not what her family says it is. So yeah, excited to read that. We have The Other People by CJ Tudor, and that is out in January 2020, so that's going to be the first one on my list that will be released. It is about a gentleman whose family disappears. His people believe that they're dead. He holds on hope that they're alive, and nobody believes him that the last time he saw his daughter, she was smiling and waving from the back of this rusty, creepy looking van. He holds on hope that he'll be able to find them, but ends up in a support group for people who have also lost others who are missing, and they all support each other and it's all very lovely. When he sees that van again, he asks his new support group for help in trying to find out where his family went, what happened to them, because they're good people, right? They know what it's like to have lost someone, they know what it's like to have had someone they love die. Unfortunately, they want other people to know what it's like to suffer in that way too. Cue the dramatics. Dun dun dun. Sounds good. I'm very interested in that one. I really like the idea of the support group being the bad guys. Love it. Okay, next up we have The Return by Rachel Harrison, which is out in March 2020. This is about a girl whose best friend Julie goes missing, and everyone eventually comes to the conclusion that Julie must be dead, but her best friend, who knows her, who feels in her bones that she is definitely alive, has complete faith that she is definitely going to come back someday. And she's right. 2 years to the day from going missing, Julie walks back into everyone's lives. Hooray! Happy ending! Well, no, obviously, because it's my type of book, it's not going to have a very happy ending. Basically, Julie meets up with her and their other close friends from school to have a kind of reunion of sorts in a remote cabin. Of course, is there any other kind? And they start to notice something a little strange about Julie. She's emaciated, sallow looking, she's very different appetites, and she starts to come to the conclusion that the Julie who disappeared 2 years ago doesn't seem to be the same Julie that has appeared then. So yeah, very intrigued to find out what's going on with that one. Next we have Wonderland by Is it Zoje? Zoje Stage? Zoe Stage? I don't know, I'm sorry. I'm so terrible at pronouncing names. That is out in June 2020. It is about a family who move from the city to a very remote rural property, miles away from other neighbours and towns and help, more importantly. Surrounded by beautiful woodland and everything's fine for a while, but there's something in the woods that is stalking their family that they need to fight for survival against. Love me a good old-fashioned monster story, but the reason that this was on my list is because in the description it said, if Shirley Jackson wrote The Shining, it might look like this. Sold. I mean, if that doesn't make you want to read a book, I don't know what will. Okay, we then have Out of Body by Jeffrey Ford, which is out in May 2020. It is about a man who suffers from sleep paralysis. He is then in a deli when it gets robbed in his small town, and he holds a young woman who dies in his arms. The sleep paralysis then goes from your sort of bog standard sleep paralysis to something much, much different, where he's able to leave his body and travel through dreams, and he starts to unravel a lot of very dark and scary secrets about the town around him. There are demons behind doors, there are things going on that nobody knows about, and most scarily of all, he encounters a serial killer. And uncounters, that's a cross between encounters and uncovers. I've just invented a word, you're welcome. He uncounters a serial killer that's been operating in the town for over a century and is able to travel through his dreams with him. Love this. We've got serial killers, we've got astral projection, we've got sleep paralysis. Tick, 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 sold. Reading it. Okay, then we have Bone Harvest by James Brogdon, which is out in May 2020, and it is about a woman with early onset Alzheimer's who's suffered a lot of tragedy in her life. She has a little allotment, and she starts to notice some really strange, creepy, ritualistic-y type things going on, creepy noises from the shed of the allotment next door. Nobody's going to believe her, of course, because she has early onset Alzheimer's, so she needs to kind of work out what's going on, try to stop it. Is it even happening? Is it in her head? Whole big internal and external struggle, which is why I particularly like this one, because she's not just battling a potential outside threat, she's trying to do so while fighting her own deteriorating memories and mind, and that sounds like it could be very, very scary to read. And a little heartbreaking. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Then we have The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, which is out in May 2020. This is about a group of Indian American friends who reunite and go into where they're from. They're from the Blackfeet Nation, childhood friends, and they find themselves being stalked by something that wants revenge for something that happened 10 years ago on an elk hunt. Doesn't give you any more information on that, but there's monsters, so I'm in. And finally, obvious, it's always going to be on my list, we have If It Bleeds by Stephen King, which is out in May 2020, and this is a selection of 4 novellas by him. I love me a novella and a short story, and I love me Stephen King, so this was always going to be on my list. Don't know anything about what they're about, but I do have the 4 titles. We have Mr. Harrigan's Phone, The Life of Chuck, Rat, and If It Bleeds. Very excited for that one. What about you guys? Were any of these books already on your radar? Do you have any books on your radar for next year you think that I would like? Leave it in the comments down below. Let me know all your 2020 TBR recommendations. As I said before, if you could please subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate it. And don't forget to hit that bell button so that you never miss out on any of my spooky content. But that's me for now, guys. Bye.